to a live this evening, and if I can get it correct, we're going to be titling it Stand with Israel. So I'm going to get the other TikTok side of the house going as well because I do want to have this on both sides. So, something that's only knows. Okay, so we will go ahead and start this off. So, started on TikTok. Now, the question we're going to be asking now, you can see it on YouTube, on TikTok, but rather not on YouTube. But I'm actually on both pages simultaneously. What we're asking tonight, and some of you folks have heard this. You've heard people chanting, "I stand with Israel." And then, of course, you got a lot of folks, particularly many folks on the left, suggesting that, to some degree, maybe they even so much as stand with Hamas. I understand that sounds crazy, but tonight we're going to be asking a simple question. Do you, or better yet, as you see on the monitor, should America stand with Israel? Now, the primary response you generally hear is you need to do your homework before you come to conclusions on these things. Well, today we have done some homework. I want to present something to you because I think it is kind of important that we hear this type of stuff because at the end of the day, I don't believe, and many of you folks watching probably feel the same way, that the way we're being educated on a lot of things, I don't necessarily believe that we often receive the entire side of the story. So we've heard the outcries of the Israelis, particularly those that have been massacred. You hear what Hamas did and things like that. But why did Hamas do that? That's what we're going to be asking. So what I want to do is play some clips to you folks. We're going to be taking callers in the box and respondents on YouTube as well because it's on both platforms simultaneously. But what I want you to hear are some things that you probably have not heard maybe before. Maybe you didn't pay attention to them as much as you may tonight. But make no mistake about it, with the atrocities that happened in Israel, I want to make a case for how this could have built up and potentially why it has happened. And how maybe, perhaps in this nation, perhaps in the Western world, we had our ears closed. We simply had our ears closed. So tonight's broadcast is going to be about, should America stand with Israel? There's no shortage of politicians all over the country, if not the world, chanting that phrase, "I stand with Israel." So what I want you to hear is a few things, and we'll talk about it. I'll go to the box. I'll take callers as always. You know the program is forever will remain MAGA friendly. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone. MAGA is a preferred guest on the program. Liberals are welcome as well. But I want you to hear some clips. Literally, virtually every single Democratic president in our lifetime. And we're going to go back as far as Jimmy Carter. But I want you to hear the clips. We'll talk to some of the callers in regards to why I'm even having this evening live stream. This particular live stream here is from several years ago. In fact, this one it's 8 years ago, but this actually took place on August 27, 2009. So some 14 years ago. This is former President Jimmy Carter actually in Palestine talking to some Palestinian citizens that had been evicted by Jewish settlers 14 years ago. This is 14 years ago. Now, he's pretty much visiting the land, but there is audio. And he's going to explain how he feels about this. And you will hear from Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Now, for you on YouTube, it's the monitor. Okay, I'm gonna turn it off.
Which is your house? Which is your house?
Now, real quick to preface it, he is sitting down talking to a Palestinian, asking a Palestinian, which one is your house? Now, he's asking the Palestinian to describe his house, which was taken by Jewish settlers. So this Palestinian is looking at his home that he was evicted from, and basically the Jewish people just took his house.
My house was there. My house was there.
No. I say still is your house.
Yeah, well, it's this
We are
with the
three,
green sauce.
three kids.
Yeah, oh, I see.
We are
It's a political issue. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's an attempt by Israel to take over East Jerusalem, which is part of Palestine. And they've been living here 55 years. Three families living here legally 55 years. There's 17 members in the family. They've all been forced out of their homes, and they've been taken over by Israeli settlers. And of course, the only appeal they have legally is to the Israeli court system. And I'm not condemning anybody, but it's obviously a matter of injustice and human rights.
Now listen to this
That
follow-up.
reminds me so much of what used to happen in South Africa,
It's only 3 minutes.
where people were evicted from their homes and their homes were taken over by whites. And you would see someone say, "You see that house? That used to be my home, but they are no longer allowed to be there." But the point is that happened. And now freedom has come to South Africa. And we want to say to you that justice will prevail in your own situation as it has prevailed in other situations.
Now, this gentleman is a South African, and he's saying that what happened to the Palestinians reminds him of what happened in South Africa. And he's talking about houses in his homeland. It's the same way where black South Africans are pointing at a house and saying that used to be my house, and now it's occupied by white people. By the way, the chat is turned on TikTok, so you guys, I don't know, I had it turned off by mistake. But going to the comments, the reason why we're doing the live is to ask the simple question in regards to standing with Israel. Should we? What I'm going to make a case to you tonight, and nobody's here to defend Hamas. I'm not going to defend the atrocities of Hamas, but I want to suggest or make a case that these people have been complaining our entire lives, and their complaints have fallen on deaf ears. And now that they're doing something horrendous, we're all of a sudden paying attention. But I want to ask the question, should we have paid attention before? If we had paid attention, would we be dealing with this now? Now, I played your bill, that's President Carter you heard, and obviously he's outdated by today's standards, but I'm going to continue bringing it up to modern standards. Barack Obama also has a lot to say on this. So does Bill and Hillary Clinton. We're going to discuss all of it, but I want to go to the box, see if I'm actually getting it wrong. We'll start out with my boss. I cannot pronounce that. My ball sack or something. What is it? What is your name there? Good evening. May.
It's exactly how it reads, man. They do itch once in a while.
Understood. So what do you think? Let me start out by simply asking you yourself. Do you believe we should stand with Israel?
And that you should not give up.
Hang on, man. Go ahead.
That you will be able to live securely.
Sorry, there's a little background noise. That one's a tough one. My from the hip answer right now is no. I do understand that, we've had a long-standing relationship with them, but, it's my opinion that, what's the point of having a pro boxer as your best buddy if he can never back you up in a fight? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but are you saying that Israel should back us up?
No, what I'm saying is, like, for instance, when we went to Iraq, which, I'm not going to get into what, we shouldn't have gotten that, right? But, all the Arab nations around there said if Israel gets involved, you can no longer, utilize our land for bases and so on and so forth, right?
Right, right.
They don't want the involvement. So what's the point in having an alliance with somebody if you can never use them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to some degree, maybe we should check our alliance with them. I mean, when we generally create an alliance with another nation, character tends to be something we factor in. Is Israel, do they measure up to the character that we normally say we're pursuing?
It's our character.
That's a damn good question. That too is a damn good question.
And I mean, I lean conservative. My conservative beliefs, I think a lot of them were inherited the older I get. I'm seeing the other side of the coin as well. That's why I put my little political spectrum map up there.
Yeah.
And the long-standing conservative tradition is that you support Israel, right? I think that's just a lot of money, right?
Yeah, because I was going to ask, are the American people standing by Israel because Israel is worthy of standing by, or are we simply doing it because of how we were taught and what we were told?
The latter. Yeah, I don't think that they are good actors. I don't think. I say leave them both to their own devices, right? Because in the current situation, I can't speak on the 80-year history of it, the 2,000-year history of it, but in the current situation, I don't think Israel is being good actors. But I also think that if you indiscriminately fire rockets into places where civilians are, you're going to get the hammer. They're both bad actors. And if I can just use this little anecdote, I'd read an article a long time ago that just summed up Afghanistan for me, right?
Okay.
This guy, he unalived his wife because she gave birth to a girl and he wanted a boy.
Damn.
You can't fix that shit, right? Germany and Japan made us think that we can go in all around the world and do that, right?
But here's something I don't get, because you asked a question earlier in regard, you had a really good rebuttal on me where you said, what about our character? Is America, when you think about Saddam Hussein mistreating his own people, or when we're talking about the Palestinians mistreating people, firing rockets, is America the best messenger to talk about the moral characters of other countries, considering how bad we treated our own people in this country?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's been a while since we've committed genocide, so there's that. So I guess we can speak on that if it's currently happening,
But to enforce it militarily?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's I don't know. And but to speak on like our moral character when it comes to the freedoms of their people, free elections, being properly represented, things like that.
Right.
I'm not sure because I know that's a whole new topic about voter security and stuff like that. But I'm just talking about voter influence, right?
Okay.
Media influence, so on and so forth, like that. Like the idea that we've accepted a two-party system is like, oh, we either get that or we get that. In the free world, you can't call yourself the free world if that's the choice, these people that can all tie their lines back to former presidents, all of them.
Yeah. Well, we don't just have a two-party system. There are other parties, but you need money because you can't advertise in America for free. And I've often said the best solution to getting around a two-party system is to simply require anyone in this country that has an FCC broadcasting license. I'm talking about the ABC affiliates, Fox, CBS, NBC, the Fox News, CNN, anyone that has a license to broadcast, as a condition of having a license to broadcast, during election time, you must donate a small time, maybe an hour per 24 hours, to political campaigns. That way, when people want to run for president, they don't need to raise millions of dollars to advertise. If everybody had a small amount of guaranteed airtime on various networks, I think you could have more than a two-party system. But right now, you only have a two-party system because no one else can afford to get in the competition. They can't afford all of the money it takes to put ads out everywhere.
Yeah, I've thought of something very similar to that, if not exactly that. the third party should be subsidized. So, just using even numbers, if this campaign has $100 billion, like that's just too dominant, right? And
Right.
I mean, I know social.
You know, like a salary cap, like a salary cap.
Yeah, and you got to give airtime to the next highest polling person.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
Yeah, I just said, as opposed to subsidy, like I said, if you own a television station, once every 4 years, you got to donate, 3 or 4 hours of advertising time. That way everybody who's running for office, they can get a 30-second spot, maybe 2 or 3 times a day on television. I mean, if you made that happen where now I'm running as an independent party, but on every network, I get a couple commercials every day for free or for an extremely low price. Now I can get my message out. That's where the biggest problem is. These other parties, because they don't have the money, they can't get their message out. I think you and I are on the same page. We're just coming to a different conclusion on how to do it.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, does that make us be able to use the title of the free world, right? Because we call the president the leader of the free world, but I just don't.
Bro, that's just some ego shit. Listen, I lived overseas. I lived in Australia. I was in New Zealand. They don't like hearing that America's president is the leader of the free world. They're looking like, no, you're not the leader of us. That's some shit that we say to inflate our own egos. You hear, America is the freest country on earth. I can tell you for a fact that people in other countries don't think that.
Yeah, and so, when because and I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but I think we're all wrapping up into one little bowl here. There's a couple podcasts that I like watching. Some of the former Navy SEALs that got some real popular podcasts, and I've seen on different ones. They're interviewing other special forces guys and saying, hey, are we the bad guys? Because if you were to take all of those Ba'ath Party members off those 52 card decks and just put faces of United States Congress and
Wow.
executive branch,
Wow.
well, realistically, right? I mean, 9/11, we're all hyped up, but what if today, right now, our president said, "I'm going to go invade Iraq"? Okay, well, what'd they do?
Yeah.
Well, they could hurt us. Well, hold on, no, but what they do right now? Well, nothing really, but I'm going anyway, right? I mean, just put him as the ace of spades. You just put him as the ace of spades on that deck.
Wow. I guess I never thought of it like that, but I don't totally disagree with that. I don't totally disagree. But I think you and I, for the most part, even though you lean right, you lean further right than I do, I don't think we're that separate on this. I think that even though Hamas was atrociously wrong to do what they did on October 7th, I think if it's one victory that Hamas has scored, it has opened more people's eyes to the fact that Israel is no angel in this stuff. People are now paying attention to what Israel was doing.
Yeah, 100%. And, because all the land claims there are religious, I pretty much zone out like it's a PowerPoint meeting at work, right? I don't want to hear about these religious claims to land that are 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
And stuff. But if we just look back, at a kind of microscopic level, the past 75 to 80 years, like neither of them have a very good leg to stand on as being in the right.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Something, I don't think I've heard anyone at this point suggest that Israel hasn't done something wrong. It's just varying degrees of how wrong they are. But Hamas's response was so awful that, it's given some sympathy to Israel. Fact is, though, the Palestinians have been bitching about Israel for a long time, and they've been falling on deaf ears. But now that Hamas has responded, all of a sudden people are like, okay, well, we need to look into this. But we'll see how it turns out. But I do got to move it on. I appreciate you coming on, man, and thank you for that subscription. Come on back anytime.
Right on, man. I appreciate it. Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm going to go look up right now. I just want to see any kind of appeals that Palestine has made to the UN or NATO or anything like that, right? Because if you think of it this way, the same as Al-Qaeda, right? Hey, you might have a legitimate beef with the United States, right? But the answer is not to go fly planes into the building. You're
Right.
going to get the long D of the law when that happens. No one's going to back you up. So I want to see if Palestine's made any of those appeals because they would have a leg to stand on if the UN said, "Oh well, get fucked."
If you would, send me what you come up with. I'm a strong believer and they absolutely did do that. But let me know what you come up with, man.
Right on, man. Thanks for having me on. Have a great night.
Appreciate it. Now, I will say before I go into the next clip and go back to the box, TikTok is censoring the hell out of this broadcast. I don't know if I've said Israel too much. I don't know if I've said Hamas too much, but we're under 50, and I'm generally near 1,000 viewers. So they are censoring the hell out of this, but I do appreciate you few folks that are on. By the way, tap the screen. I mean, I got 30-some people here, and I got 3,000 likes. So some is obviously, TikTok is certainly, there's certainly some censoring being going on. This obviously is a topic where, you know, certain people probably don't want it to be talked about and things like that. But on TikTok, I generally am, well in the 3 digits, almost, I've been well over 1,000 folks tuning in at times. And for it to be in the 30s, I don't think I've ever had a live where I consistently had less than 100 people. And I don't think I've ever done that before. So clearly there's something going on. But I do appreciate you folks that are here. And we're going to continue the message because it is recorded and I will play it back to a different audience. But we're asking the question, should America stand with Israel? I see there's somebody in the box and I'll go to him. But as I promised, I'm going to go through presidents that we had in our lifetime. TikTok says subscribe to comment. That shouldn't say that anymore. Turn that off. For somebody on YouTube said that TikTok is forcing subscriptions. I don't know. It's really, in fact, put it this way, it actually changed my, it changed it changed how the page looks. So yeah, something is going on, but I don't know why it's saying. I'll turn off what. No, it won't even let me turn it off. Something's really going on here, and I'm not trying to force that. I promise you, I'm not trying to force that. So it's definitely doing something to reduce the numbers. I could start the live up or something again, but we'll just continue it on for now until I can figure out what the hell is going on. But the numbers are staying consistently low. I seen a few people in the comments responding, and suddenly they stopped. So there is something going on with TikTok. Let me see. I'm just trying to see if I can make sure that any type of blocks from people communicating is not happening. It says you can't turn off sub-only line when you're still live. Yeah, I don't know why the hell is doing that. I don't know. Give me a second. Well, I want to turn this shit off, but I kind of want to restart the live and turn it off. One of your other night shows did it. I think that's why people are leaving. Yeah, and I'm not trying to, Big Dog, I see you guys on YouTube responding. I'm trying to see if I can fix this. I'll just say it this way. Gen Xer, by the way, and user guy, I see you folks waiting in the box. What I want to ask you folks to do, I'm going to go to, obviously you guys know I have another page which has quite a few followers on it as well. Most of you folks have seen me on both pages. I'll go to the other one and see if I can do the same live with that turned off. Because like I said, I don't know why the numbers are exceptionally low. So I'm going to stop it on TikTok. YouTube, it'll maintain, it'll continue. And go there and I'll bring you guys up first. Because I don't know what the hell's going on. It's certainly out of my control. Damn, I hate doing this shit in the middle of a live. Yeah, there's definitely something going on though, but we'll see if we can switch over. You folks on YouTube, I do appreciate you holding, because I do want to go straight to President Obama next. So, if you will, and, it's hard to try to talk and switch this shit at the same damn time. Let's see here. I'm not even going to title. I'm going to go straight into it so we can keep the program moving, keep this shit going. All right. And go live. Okay, there should be nothing touched on this. So the minute it kicks in live, and I'll be able to tell right off the bat if TikTok is still doing something. Now, right now, Three, two, one. All right, what up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Had to switch over the video, so we'll just let the folks filter in. You guys on YouTube, it's a much smaller audience on YouTube, but I do appreciate you here. Now, we shouldn't have a sub-only live on this page, but right now I gotta wait till the people begin filtering in because I do want to continue asking the question: why has this happened? Why haven't we listened to what was going on? Because I'm under the opinion that if we had paid attention to what was going on, you may have not had 1,400 Israelis lose their lives. I really believe that our ignorance or our unwillingness to listen to these people has a lot to do with why you ultimately had, I suppose, what would amount to the second worst casualty event in the history of the Jewish people. They're suggesting that it is probably the second worst thing that happened since the Holocaust. So it's that bad. Now, I want you to hear, this is President Obama. It's about 3 minutes long. Now, once again, just like the other clip, just like I talked about where they've been complaining and we've been ignoring it, this clip too is 10 years old, from 10 years ago. And it is just as relevant today as it was 10 years ago. And I do believe it's stuff like this. It is the ignorance or the blatant overlooking of stuff like this that has led to 1,400 Jewish folks losing their life and going to probably be thousands of Palestinians by the time it's done. Thousands.
Right to self-determination. Their right to justice must also be recognized.
He's going to get a lot of applause. He's going to get a lot of applause in this.
And put yourself in their shoes. Look.
Now, real quick, I just want to preface this by saying he is actually in Israel telling this to them, to their face. This is 10 years ago.
And put yourself in their shoes. Look at the world through their eyes. It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own. Living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day. It's not just when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished.
Now, did you also hear that? He talked about settler violence against Palestinians going unpunished. Now, this sounds very similar to, say, what African Americans used to talk about years ago. The whole term Black Lives Matter is kind of based on that, where the claim is that violence against African Americans goes unpunished, particularly at the hands of law enforcement. But I'm not really going into a conversation about that. But he is talking about Israeli settlers are committing acts of violence against Palestinians, and nothing is being done about it. Like I said, this is 10 years ago. Obama's in Israel telling us to them to their face.
Palestinians goes unpunished. It's not right to prevent Palestinians from farming their lands or restricting a student's ability to move around the West Bank or displace Palestinian families from their homes. Neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer. Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land.
Ever heard of the phrase, give me liberty or give me death? Does that sound familiar?
You know, I'm going off script here for a second, but before I came here, I met with a group of young Palestinians from the age of 15 to 22. And talking to them, they weren't that different from my daughters. They weren't that different from your daughters or sons. I honestly believe that if any Israeli parent sat down with those kids, they'd say, I want these kids to succeed. I want them to prosper. I want them to have opportunities just like my kids do. I believe that's what Israeli parents would want for these kids if they had a chance to listen to them and talk to them.
Real quick in the comments, Blue South Rising asks, who was Obama talking to what year? This clip is 10 years old, so understand this is not modern, even though it is obviously relevant to today. This clip is 10 years old. You see the Israeli flags on the stage behind him. He is in Israel actually giving this speech to the Israeli people. He is there telling this to them to their face. But this is 10 years ago. Listen to how relevant it is to today.
I believe that. Now, only you can determine what kind of democracy you will have. But remember that as you make these decisions, you will define not simply the future of your relationship with the Palestinians, you will define the future of Israel as well. As Ariel Sharon said, I'm quoting him, it is impossible to have a Jewish democratic state at the same time to control all of Eretz Israel. If we insist on fulfilling the dream in its entirety, we are liable to lose it all.
Now, you obviously have not heard that speech played on American TV very often, but I wanted to present it to you not from some source or even from yours truly, but you actually got a chance to see the guy saying it himself. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is simple. The Palestinians, not Hamas, but the Palestinians. Hamas is acting on behalf of the Palestinians. They're just doing some atrocious shit, but they're acting on behalf of the Palestinians. But the fact is, the Palestinians have been voicing complaints for our entire lives. Now, Hamas decides to step up and do something horrible, and suddenly it's easy to look back and realize, you know, they've been actually saying something that we haven't been paying attention to. The case I'm trying to make today is that had we been listening, as opposed to just yelling out our stand with Israel, maybe 1,400 Israelis would be alive today. We clearly were not listening to the Palestinians. Obviously, we were not listening. The speech I just played, I would assume that the overwhelming majority of Americans, even Obama supporters, never heard that, or certainly do not even remember it, because it wasn't covered much on American television. In fact, I pay a lot of attention to politics, at least I try. I remember Obama getting hammered constantly for speaking in favor of giving the Palestinians freedom, which led me to easily go back and find shit. When I say do your own work, I'm gonna give you some more stuff, because it wasn't just Carter. You heard me play the speech earlier from President Carter, even further back, saying something similar. Now we're at Obama. I also have speeches from both Hillary and Bill Clinton, going back to the box. Fact is, we should have been listening as opposed to just taking one side blindly. Gen Xer, good evening, welcome to the program. Trump killed the two-state solution by moving the embassy. Blue South Rising. Trump didn't help it out at all. Trump really stood up and said, I stand with Israel. Gen X, good evening.
What's up, my brother from another mother?
Hey, always.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I appreciate
That was some slick ass. Hey, that was some slick ass gangster shit with the forced subscription. Man, I got your ass $5. That's a lot of money.
I didn't, but I apologize, but I do appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate it. And I don't, because I'm gonna tell you something. I'll let you speak, but they certainly is something about this particular topic that TikTok does not want covered. Because even in this live, I'm at 50 viewers, and I did a live this morning, 800 of you folks. I haven't changed a single setting on this live stream, so there's no reason for it to be this low unless there's some censorship going on behind the scenes. I just simply clicked over to this profile, clicked live, went on, did not even title it. There's no reason this stream should have this few people in it.
That was some okie doke shit by TikTok.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. Even though $5 is a whole lot of money, you worth it. You worth it.
Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate that. But yeah, they're definitely playing game, because this is a hot topic that people are interested in, because there is a big divide in this country. Some people are standing with Palestinians, some people are standing with Israel. There are some people that are even standing with Hamas. So I do believe TikTok is listening to the conversation, picking out words, and limiting how many people see it. I've never had lives that have had this few viewers. I think, what do we got, 44 in there right now? I'm generally 500 and above on every live stream I do. So yeah, there's certainly some censorship going on. But what do you think? Do you believe that we should stand with Israel?
I'm going to shock you, because you're not going to expect this from me, of all people.
Okay.
No. Militarily, no. I think that Israel is our closest ally.
What about on moral support? Okay, no military. What about on moral support?
On moral support and intelligence, yes.
Then you get, well, shit.
Financial and military, no.
But Gen X, but wait a minute. They already have the superior firepower. If you give them the intelligence, you might as well be standing with a military. They already got the weapons.
No, not true. Not true. Not true. No, it's true what you're saying, but Well, let me finish my sentence.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think, morally speaking, yes, they're our closest ally in the Middle East if we want to keep skin in the game. Israel has over 300 nuclear warheads. They don't freaking need our help.
No, I agree.
Militarily, we should not send our children over there to die. It's not our war. Okay? Now, did Hamas commit some of the most atrocious things in modern history? Dude, they were cutting off the heads of children.
I gotta interrupt you real quick. And I was gonna let you speak, but when it comes around to the taking off the heads of children, I actually believe that has not been substantiated. The Israeli government stated we cannot confirm that. I think that actually might be propaganda.
Okay, whether it's propaganda or not, they killed innocent people.
True.
They killed women.
True.
They killed those teenagers at that concert.
That's true.
Some of whom were Americans, and I think that's where we should have some skin in the game. When you kill Americans, now I'm like, well, I don't want to be involved militarily, but if you kill Americans, you need to be held accountable. That being said, no, I don't think we should back them militarily. We're not the world police. They've got over 300 nuclear weapons. 300.
Well, you're not gonna use
so much bad shit throughout the years. Hear me out. They did so much bad shit throughout the years to the Palestinians that, you know what, something's gonna bite you in the ass. Something's gonna bite you in the ass sooner or later. So, no, I mean, do I think Hamas did the right thing? No. Do I think Hamas is using the Palestinians as leverage to justify their disgusting actions? I do. Do I believe that we as a nation should support another nation that basically bought this shit on themselves? No, I don't. And my conservative counterparts can bitch and scream. I don't believe that. I think we should offer them moral support, intelligence, and that's it.
How do you
If
feel?
my kids over there die, I'm not okay with that.
Let me ask you this, because I mean, obviously you voted for Trump. How do you feel about President Trump not only moving the embassy to Jerusalem to piss off the Palestinian people, but openly bragging about it?
I didn't catch that. Say that again?
I said, how do you feel? Because I know you supported President Trump. How do you feel about the fact that President Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, not only pissing off the Palestinian people, but he openly bragged about it, creating more conflict?
I think that's a different issue, and I do not think that has anything to do with what Hamas did.
I don't know about
Let me
that.
rephrase that. I don't think that justifies the atrocities that Hamas committed.
Yeah, nothing. And listen,
Do I think that was the right move? I don't know, bro. I don't know.
well, let me make it clear. Let me make it clear. None of us are going to say that what Hamas did was justified. But let's go back. This happened October 7th. Let's go back to October 6th, the day before it happened. Do you believe the Palestinians had anything to complain about?
Oh, for sure.
Do you think anything was? Do you think anything was?
They've had shit to complain about for the last 70 years.
Yeah. Do you think anybody was doing anything to help them about what they were complaining about?
Yes, I do.
Who?
Now, this is why it's split. I do, because over the course of the last 10 years, Israel has Middle Eastern Arabs, including Palestinians, in their government, in their judicial system, in their law enforcement. They have tried to integrate them, maybe not at the rate that's fair, but they have not. They have come around a little bit, and I think that counts for something.
To me,
I think Hamas.
what you're saying.
Even Palestinians
Yeah,
are
but
saying that they don't agree with Hamas.
and like I said, we're not defending Hamas, but I'm saying let's go back to the time October 6th, the day before Hamas struck. You agree that the Palestinians were being oppressed as of October 6th of this month, right?
I answered that. Yes.
Yeah. And who was helping them alleviate that oppression? Who was standing up for the Palestinians? Who was looking out for them? Because we still, as of October 6th, even though we both admit that the Palestinians were being oppressed, America was still standing by Israel.
And that's why I don't believe that we should give military aid to Israel.
Yeah.
I just don't think that that's okay. I don't.
Yeah, but what would happen if we didn't assist Israel militarily? Keep in mind, they're enemies with Yemen, they're enemies with Syria, they're enemies with Lebanon, Egypt. I mean, do you think they would survive if America stopped giving them military help?
At this point, yes.
Really?
At this point, yes. At this point, as we speak right now, this second, brother, Israel has the firepower, the Air Force, the means to defend themselves, and the nuclear capability to really put a hurting on a whole lot of Arab states. Do I think that's right? Absolutely not. The reality is, though, they can defend themselves. Now, for our children to die for them? No, I don't agree with that.
You really think the Israelis could take on that many different states simultaneously and win?
Have you ever seen a 50 megaton nuke? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they can.
Yeah, but you don't need to use a 50 megaton nuke to take a... Israel's a small country. A bunch of conventional bombs would cause all kinds of mayhem in that country. It's not a big...
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If I'm attacking you with everything I got and you're just doomed, you're gonna lose. and you have a way to wipe me out and everybody back in my play, you're not going to do it?
Well, that's a good question, and here's a response, and it kind of sounds very similar to what Ant said in the comments, which is they are too close to each other for nuclear warfare. The thing about it is, if Israel starts resorting to nukes, they're going to draw a lot more people into the conflict, because now there's fallout, there's issues. Before you know it, you got a whole continent of people trying to whoop your ass. You're not going to get a lot of nukes being fired from Israel. That's just not going to happen, because they would draw everybody into that conflict, and they would all be aimed at Israel. At some point, you can't beat everybody.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're on the point of obliteration, when you're on the legitimate point of obliteration, what does it matter?
Well, that's when you actually bring your ass to the table and start. I mean, we didn't obliterate Germany. Japan still exists because they did not do what you're suggesting. At some point, maybe you need to bring your ass to the table to avoid obliteration.
Dude, we did obliterate Japan. 2 cities.
Well, yeah, but we could have just continued firebombing the country, did a massive land invasion, and slaughtered everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could have went Hamas on Japan.
I think we should back out, again, offer them moral support, intelligence, and let them figure it out. These people, okay, and I'm going to go a little off. These people have been killing each other for 1,400 years. There's been no peace. And you can say, or not you, but anyone can say that the Muslims want to kill all the Jews. Well, guess what? Deep down, the Jews want to kill all the Muslims too.
Okay, you're the first person. You are the first person I've ever heard say that, because everybody says that if the Jewish people, if Hamas was to put down their arms, there would be peace. If the Jewish people were to put down their arms, there would be no Jewish. People do paint the picture that only the Palestinians and the Arab side are the most violent. You're the first person to admit that the Jews also are trying to wipe them out. I've not heard anybody else say that.
They're equally violent because each group hates the other fundamentally. But now, when I say you understand the word fundamentally, they hate each other to their core.
Yeah.
And if either side gets the other hand, they'll wipe out the other. No questions asked.
Fair point.
Regardless of who's backed up. And they've been doing it again for 1,400 years.
That's
It's a sad reality. It's a disgusting reality that human beings can be that hateful, but look at the conservatives and the liberals.
We ain't you. Well, let me make. I gotta move it on, but before I do, I'll just tell you this: the conservatives and liberals. I don't know where the hell the conservatives and liberals are not trying to wipe each other out. It's you MAGA folks that have got into the mix that have a hardcore mentality. But the Republicans and Democrats, although they don't like each other, they're willing to work with each other. All of a sudden MAGA gets in the mix, and any Republican that works with a Democrat is a rhino. You guys are not big fans of reaching across the aisle.
All right, let me end it with this. I'm going to call you out on that because that's bullshit. You're a liberal, I'm a MAGA, and I gave your ass $5.
All right.
On this goddamn street.
You win tonight. Always a pleasure, man. Come on back anytime. And thank you for the subscription.
Have a good night, man.
You
Always a
too.
pleasure.
Thank you. All right, looking in the comments. I always like talking to Gen X, or good people there. Looking in the comments, there was a comment I wanted to really address, and I'll go right back to the box. We need to obliterate war, says Star Grandma. Yeah, that's who I wanted to address. You said something. Okay, here's a Star Grandma said, quit demonizing, and Grandma's definitely a friend of the program. But she says, quit demonizing innocent people just like you. I would like for you to elaborate a bit further on that comment. I would like to see where you're going with that and address it further. But what do you mean by demonizing innocent people? And when you throw in the fact that both Israelis and Palestinians have lost their lives in this conflict. Give me your definition of who's innocent. I would like to know that. Give me your definition of who's innocent, because in regards to, there's three factions involved in this. There's Israelis, there's Palestinians, and then there's Hamas. Hamas is actually the smallest of the three groups. So I would like to hear your opinion on who represents the innocent people. Hamas, by the way, with their atrocious actions, war crimes, you name it, acts of terrorism, or whatever the case may be, regardless of how you feel about their acts, they're doing this on behalf of the Palestinians. Even the Palestinians may think they're overdoing it, but they are doing this on behalf of the Palestinians. They believe the Palestinians are being mistreated. You know, it almost kind of reminds me of, let's say, of females getting smacked around by her spouse. And I'll go to the box, tap the screen, get your boy up to 15,000. Small audience, but I do appreciate you folks tuning in. Kind of reminds me of a female that's getting knocked around by her spouse. And she is somewhat taking it. She's become docile. She's somewhat submissive. And her brother comes over and literally tries to slit her spouse's throat. Now, the female was getting mistreated, but the response that the brother did on the spouse is overkill. But he is acting on behalf of his sister. He's acting on behalf of his sister. It's overkill to try to take the life of the guy that was beating his sister, but he is acting on her behalf. That is very similar to what is going on in Israel, is that they are acting on behalf of the Palestinian people. They're just overdoing it. But if we go back to October 6th, which I mentioned earlier, the day before the terrorism happened in Israel, is Israel the good guys as of October 6th? No. They are the husband smacking around the spouse at that point. They really are. That's what I want to talk about. I'll go to the bots. Great example, says DZ. Appreciate that. We praise that response, but demonize them for natural reaction to oppression. I don't know if we were demonized. Well, we're certainly demonizing Hamas's response. That is true. I think when they were being oppressed, we were ignoring their cries. I often point out the same conversation you have with a lot of minorities about, why do you guys hate the police, and why, the police are the good guys and things like that. And it's the same way. There's a whole history of outcries against these people that are being ignored. I mean, how many complaints against law enforcement have been lodged by African Americans for the last 100 years that have been ignored? So then you get this bad situation where people burning stuff down and, talking about defunding. This is very similar. When you ignore something, it has a boiling point. We'll go back to the box. Not defending it, just explaining it. Tech girls. Appreciate you guys tuning in, tapping the screen. Good evening, tech girls.
Yes, girls, yeah. Gosh, man, dude, you're dropping so many facts tonight, and it's so hard because we want to get emotionally charged by this subject.
Yeah, I mean, we've been... I will just say this. I think, and I'll let you continue, but I'll just say this. I think now that Hamas has opened this up and people are paying attention to what Israel is actually doing, I think this shows what happens when you do not teach history and events accurately. There's a lot that Israel has been doing to these people that most Americans do not know. We've just been blindly standing with Israel. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I said, but like even me being a Christian, of course the Bible says to stand with the Jews, to stand with Israel, to back them, but in the same breath, you have the Palestinians that you see that they are suffering.
Yeah.
They are suffering at the hands of not just the Israelis, but also Hamas.
Yeah. So is there any solution to this? How do we get this? Because right now it's at a boiling point. It looks like Israel's going to basically try to annex the Gaza Strip as part of just taking more land. So how do we come to a conclusion on this?
I mean, the sad thing, Hanson, is I don't think we can.
Just infinite death and fighting.
I mean, that it's going to continue. This has been going on for thousands of years.
What if, okay, when you say it's going to continue being going on for thousands of years, which is an absolute fact, but what if America, like my last caller said, just said, I'm out of it? Do you think maybe Israel might change their tune? If America said, we're not going to provide military support, we're not going to provide moral support, we're not going to get involved in this at all, do you think Israel would act any differently?
No, I don't, because they're stubborn. They're both very, very stubborn people.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to be stubborn when you know you got America's the world's superpower willing to back you. If you know that superpower is not there anymore, it's like a small guy talking shit when 5 of his brothers are behind him ready to back him up. But when he turns around, if his brothers are not there, he suddenly is like X-nay and he doesn't want to talk anymore. You think they would still continue?
I do. I do.
Wow.
I do, and I think that if the U.S. would step away, I think other countries would come and back the Palestinians to take out Israel.
You think they would succeed?
Most definitely.
Yeah. My last caller pointed out that Israel is an atomic nation, has nuclear powers, nuclear capabilities, and suggested that they could take on multiple enemies at once. But I tend to agree with you that if the entire Middle East, which probably would be just about every country over there. I mean, there may be maybe 1 or 2 countries that are kind of friends to Israel, but I don't know if they really have any real allies in that region. I think if the entire Middle East got into it with Israel would definitely lose that.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I said because it's a fight over the Holy Land. That's exactly what it is. The Muslims feel that it's theirs, and the Jews feel it's theirs. And that's where all this boils down from.
No chance of a 2-state solution?
No, I don't think so. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Who's better to have in power? Who do you think is better to have in power during this chaos between Trump and Biden?
Trump.
Elaborate.
Oh my goodness. I'm saying Trump because of the fact of the peace, but then again, he was so gung-ho about Israel, it could have been, I don't know. That's a good question, and honestly, I say Trump, but then again, maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to have Trump in office.
Well, you hear Nikki Haley is actually running campaign ads saying finish him and, annihilate Hamas. And, I think Lindsey Graham talking about, basically flatten the entire Gaza Strip out. When it comes to trying to, broker some type of peace, I mean, is Trump better at brokering peace maybe?
Yeah, I would think so. In that sense, because I mean, just the infrastructure, the history, all those things within that area to say just go in and just destroy it.
Yeah. That is what.
I mean, just that. I mean, they're wanting to get all the innocent people out of there, and the sad thing is that these people honestly have nowhere to go. No one wants to take them.
What about us? What about us? Do you think we should accept a few Palestinian refugees?
No, I don't.
Oh, come on. I thought we were getting somewhere. I mean,
the reason why is to see the replay of videos from 9/11. That kind of was in the back of my mind always, to see other countries celebrate the devastation of America during 9/11, and to have it kind of brought back to the forefront, to our attention again.
Yeah, but think about this though. If America is constantly standing by Israel while they are oppressing the Palestinian people, because back during September 11th, Hamas had not committed this act, but they were doing stuff even back then. But the point I'm trying to make is, if America is standing by your oppressor, and then suddenly someone hits America, you don't see people seeing karma and wanting to celebrate that? You don't think we would celebrate that if somebody was doing to us what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians, and then suddenly somebody hit them?
Yeah, I can understand that. I
Yeah.
can understand that. But the sad thing about the Palestinians, it's not the people, it's the government officials, because they were given so much, the government, from peacekeepers, the UN, everybody, to get them an infrastructure that they can do for themselves. And those that were in government took it and decided to use it for bad things. So that's why they have to rely on Israel for everything.
I mean, I do believe so.
Government.
I do believe some of that. I do believe that there's validity to what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't know if if Israelis would have it any other way. You know, there are rumors that even the Israelis are part of the creation of Hamas. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but there are folks who are suggesting that Hamas grew to its strength due to the Israelis, just like Iraq with Saddam Hussein. A lot of the power he gained came from the United States.
Correct. And I have heard that too, and I just haven't had time to research that. But I do want to research it because it's true. I mean, for goodness sakes, we trained the pilots for 9/11.
Damn. That is true. That is true. Sometimes we create our own worst enemies. I do gotta move it on, though, Tech Girls. I appreciate you coming on. I don't know at the end of the day. You really hurt, make it sound, you depress the hell out of me by saying that, it's no way to stop this. That's really sad. I think what you're saying probably has a lot of truth to it, but we got to try, don't we?
Most definite. We should always strive for peace. Always.
All right. Fair enough. Appreciate you coming on. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking in the comments, I want to, because I know a few of you guys have come on since we started the live, and I did this on my other page before, because TikTok is censoring this. This topic, particularly throwing around the word Hamas over and over again. I think TikTok may have flagged that word. It's kind of like unalive. Maybe have to create another word or something like that. But because the reason I'm pointing this out is my lives are generally about 10 to 20 times as many people that are in here. I don't generally have lives with less than 400 or 500 people in there, and I've been barely able to crack 100. So some's obviously being censored. But I want you guys to hear this again for some of the newer folks that have tuned in, because I'm making the claim and not defending Hamas by any means. What Hamas did was atrocious. They need to be brought to justice. However, it did not happen in a vacuum. There is a reason that happened. One of them being the free world ignored the complaints of the Palestinians. I played this a minute ago, but I want you folks to hear it. This is Barack Obama 10 years ago in Israel, telling this to the Israeli people. So he is in Israel telling this to the people to their face. There is significant amount of applause in this, but you certainly will hear the message, and we'll continue on. I'll go to the box right after. If I can get hang on a second. There we go. Apologize for that.
Palestinian people's right to self-determination, their right to justice, must also be recognized. And put yourself in their shoes.
It's a 3-minute clip.
Look at the world through their eyes. It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own. Living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day. It's not just when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished.
Now, did you hear what he said? And I'll continue in a second. But he said it's not unfair when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished. 10 years ago, this is, even though it's 100% relevant to what is going on right now. This is President Obama while president in Israel, because you'll see the Israeli flags behind him on stage telling this to the Israeli people to their face. Now, he said it's unfair when settler violence, so they don't went into their areas, settle, colonize their properties, taking their property, and is now committing acts of violence against the Palestinians. And the Palestinians cannot depend on getting justice. Settler violence against Palestinians that goes unpunished. Very similar to, say, what was happening here in America, 40s, 50s, Jim Crow era, where you could, commit an act against, an African American and there would not be any justice. Not to go into that type of argument, but there is a comparison to it, where this is a Palestinians' lives matter type argument. But I want you to hear the rest of it.
It's not right to prevent Palestinians from farming their lands or restricting a student's ability to move around the West Bank or displace Palestinian families from their homes. Neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer.
Occupation and expulsion. So they're either in your neighborhood living right beside you wrongfully or kicking you completely out of your house and taking it.
Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land. I'm going off script here for a second, but before I came here, I met with a group of young Palestinians from the age of 15 to 22. And talking to them, they weren't that different from my daughters. They weren't that different from your daughters or sons. I honestly believe that if any Israeli parent sat down with those kids, they'd say, I want these kids to succeed. I want them to prosper. I want them to have opportunities just like my kids do. I believe that's what Israeli parents would want for these kids if they had a chance to listen to them and talk to them. I believe that.
Real quick in the comments, I see somebody say, I don't remember anyone from another country coming here telling U.S. leaders not to hang black people. Well, you think about the era we live in. Everybody nowadays, if you got an iPhone, Samsung, or an Android phone, or whatever the hell everybody has a movie studio in their hand. Remember Marty McFly in Back to the Future when he was surprised that see Michael J. Fox with a video camcorder, like, wow, this is a whole movie studio in your hand. None of that existed during the Jim Crow era and back then. So it was a lot easier for the governments to hide what was going on. In fact, even the North and South of the United States did, what was going on in the South, even people in the North did not know. I think somebody posted a photo on a major newspaper headline and showed one of the state troopers down south using a German Shepherd to bite an 8-year-old girl or something like that, and it outraged the people in the North, and that's kind of what gained Martin Luther King a lot of support. I don't want to go too deep into that side of the things, but it's a lot easier to commit atrocities when people don't know they're happening. Very similar to, say, the Holocaust, which is why I disagree with the comment I think came from Morgan Freeman you see all over the place. How do you end racism? Stop talking about it. Atrocities never go away when you're silent. I don't care if it's a uncle abusing a kid, police abusing citizens, correction officers abusing inmates. Silence never solves atrocities. Quit talking about it is the worst advice you can ever give. If I'm looking to commit an act of violence against you, abuse you, rob you, whatever I'm trying to do, I want you to be silent about it. I don't want it to get out. I want it to be quiet. Silence never solves that.
Now, only you can determine what kind of democracy you will have. But remember that as you make these decisions, you will define not simply the future of your relationship with the Palestinians, you will define the future of Israel as well.
There's only a few seconds left. Now go to the box.
As Ariel Sharon said, I'm quoting him, "It is impossible to have a Jewish democratic state at the same time to control all of Eretz Israel. If we insist on fulfilling the dream in its entirety, we are liable to lose it all." But that
is vintage Obama. That's folks talking about he was well spoken and things like that. No shit, that was vintage Obama. Let me go, and like I said before Obama, I played a clip from Jimmy Carter that's even older than this clip. And once again, it is completely relevant to what's happening today. The whole point I'm making, and going back to the box, we'll go straight to Coach Briggs. But the whole point I'm making is that taking Hamas out of the picture, we clearly were ignoring the cries of the Palestinian people. I'm giving you 3 presidents. In fact, I don't know why there's such a difference on this between Republicans and Democrats, because every Democratic president in our lifetime was saying what Obama just said there. Jimmy Carter, President Obama, a little bit lesser from Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, but they both pointed out as well, and I got clips of that. Coach Briggs, appreciate you holding on. Good evening. Classiest president we ever had since Star Grandma. I like it. Certainly this is about as much of a do your homework smoking gun as you can come up with. 10 years ago he's saying that. Coach Briggs, good evening.
Good evening, how you doing?
I'm doing real good. It's talking about standing with Israel. Do you stand with Israel? Or better yet, should America? Do you think America should stand with Israel?
I think we should, and here's the thing, I do feel for the Palestine people, civilians. I don't want to say, it's just hard. It's just hard to see innocent people die as being in the military. And some people throw the terms casualty of war. They throw that around loosely.
But
I don't throw that around loosely.
Yeah, but you're saying you don't throw it around loosely, but I will tell you this. When you said, I really feel for the Palestinian people, to me that sounds like after a school shooting, my hearts and prayers, or my thoughts and prayers go out to you. I understand we don't want what was happening to them to happen, but if you stand with Israel, it's essentially doing nothing about it. It's like, you had these school shootings, and a lot of America believes in your right to bear arms. If you do nothing about it, you can offer hearts and thoughts and prayers all day long. It's going to keep happening. So I don't see where, like you said, go ahead.
But I'm gonna go. I'm not a great history buff, but if I think at the end of World War II, didn't the United States kind of create this?
Yeah, they created the strife for the Palestinian people, by putting Israel over there.
Yeah, so once again, it's like cleaning up your own mess. And it's just that I do think this, if the United States, if we just walk away, I firmly believe that Middle East unrest will spill onto our shores.
and we'll have another terror attack.
But
I absolutely believe it.
here,
There's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason.
why? Why
I
is?
just wanted. I
Go-
just wanted to say.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say. There's a reason the United States Navy had to send a second battle group up into the Gulf and into the Mediterranean off the shore of Syria. Because it's a simple fact that even though Hamas is doing what they're doing, then you have to still deal with Hezbollah, and Iran is pushing the whole thing.
Right.
So if we walk away from it, well, you know what's going to happen. You know as well as I do what's going to happen.
Right. But maybe Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas would not be so up in arms if we didn't ignore what the Jewish people are doing to the Palestinians.
Well, yeah, you definitely got a point there.
You know, in my world of giving examples, it's almost like when you see a man and a woman fighting, everybody is okay with the woman hitting the man, but then all of a sudden when the man decides to act in self-defense, everybody wants to jump in. The United States is like a man watching a woman hit another man. The United States is willing to stand by and let the woman, and in this case, the woman is represented by Israel. The woman can hit the man all day long, and the dude will sit there and watch that shit, maybe even laugh at it. But then the minute the man hits the woman back, all of a sudden now the other men want to jump in because he put his hands on a woman. The United States is taking that role. Say that again?
Yeah, but see, who hit first in this situation? This is the other analogy. You hit the bully and made the bully mad. Now the bully is hitting you back.
Have you seen the map? Yeah, I understand. Coach, have you seen the map of what the Jews have, all of the land they've conquered in Israel since the end of World War II? It's obvious. When you ask who hit first, Israel is constantly hitting. Israel is constantly beating the hell out of these people to the point where they no longer have land. They have the Gaza Strip. They just have a strip. They've taken the whole damn country from them.
Right. A strip. You're right. You're right. Can't argue it.
So,
Not argue with that.
right. So that's my point, is that America, being the guy watching a woman beat the hell, we're sitting back watching the Israelis continue to pound these people. And then the minute they decide to defend themselves and do something atrocious, now all of a sudden they got 2 aircraft carriers and America's getting up. We ready to fight now. We should have stopped Israel from leading down this path.
And truth be told, Israel don't need any more arms from us, any more training. They can handle that by themselves. Honestly.
I don't.
And I'm not even lying. They are fully equipped to handle this on their own.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but I do believe that America, being one of Israel's primary allies, if we had opened up our mouths and made a few threats to Israel here and there, we could have stopped them from pounding these folks into submission and literally begging for something horrible like this to happen. Because if we take away what Hamas did on October 7th and go back to October 6th, it just makes the Palestinian people look like they're getting treated like shit. Take Hamas out of it, and then Israel is the bad guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think at this point we need to, check ourselves and pay closer attention to who we are aligning ourselves with and what we are ignoring. But I got to move it on, Coach. Good talk.
Good talk.
Hey, anytime, come back. And I had to move because our signal was, for some reason, my signal with him is a little weak. But looking in the comments, we have been sending Israel billions for decades. We are complicit in this mess. moving mountains. I refer to that as a home run. That is true. We are certainly co-conspirators in what Israel has done into the Palestinian people, which is why when I had a caller on a few callers back suggesting that we should not take any Palestinian refugees in because they were celebrating what happened on 9/11. Like I just stated before, if we're helping Israel oppress them, and all of a sudden somebody scores a victory on the United States, you can understand why the Palestinian people might cheer that. If they know, the Palestinians know that if America was not backing Israel, they would have a much better chance at getting from under the oppressive thumb of the Israelis. We are what's helping the Israelis do what they're doing. Look at what's going on in the Gaza Strip right now. They're flying F-16s. They're using all of our shit. Even the Iron Dome, isn't that a Patriot missile system? That's all of our shit. The Palestinians know that. That if it wasn't for the United States constantly helping these people out, just like I mentioned the example of a woman smacking a dude, and the dude is looking at her and saying that, you know, if it wasn't for all these other guys that's going to stand up and help you, your ass would be grass. That is Israel. The Palestinians, you know, if the United States was not backing you, not constantly supplying you with firearms or armaments rather, not just firearms, but the whole gamut of weapons up to and including helping them get atomic weapons and giving them surveillance and intel, they would be toast. They would be toast. There's about 6 different players in the region that would take Israel out in a minute. Not only Iran, Yemen, Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, they would all be jumping in the mix. They would all be taking turns beating that ass. It is the United States, which is why immediately America stepped up and sent in 2 carrier groups because we could foresee they about to get their ass beat if we don't step up. It's not going to just end with Hamas or Hezbollah. There's a line of people, for you guys who may be old enough, you've seen the Naked Gun movies where there's a scene on an aircraft where the woman is sitting there and the guy is smacking her. There's a whole line of people down the aisle of the aircraft waiting to smack this woman. That's what Israel is dealing with. There's a whole line of people waiting to take a piece of Israel for what they're doing. And the United States is really the only country that's in the way of it. Now, it's not like the Israelis are just innocent people. They are doing something. Airplane, yeah, that's the movie, Airplane, not Naked Gun. Same actor though. But yeah, there's a whole line of people that are waiting to retaliate on what Israel's doing. And it's not just because they're Jewish. It's because they are Jewish and they are doing things wrong to people. We need to stop backing that. We need to stop just yelling out, we stand with Israel. We don't stand with Hamas. Let me make that clear. I'm not here this is not a pro-Hamas conversation. What Hamas did was wrong every day of the week. But I don't believe we should act as though they just woke up one day and decided to start hurting Jewish people. There is a there's a reason why they did what they did. Default question 12. Good evening. Welcome to the program. What say you, standing with Israel?
I am going to very much disagree with you. I think that all of the reasons why you said that America has to stand with Israel is why exactly we have to. There are only 15 million Jews in their ancestral homeland right now. That's it.
Yeah.
The entire world. That's all there is. And right now in Israel, not only is it Jewish people, but 30% of the population is made of Arabs of different faith. They are actually welcoming to all of the things that these liberals do stand for. They are welcoming LGBT. They have pride parades in their country. That doesn't happen in Palestine. The people of Gaza, they are under this torturous rule of Hamas. And the people of Gaza have been oppressed for a very, very long time, but primarily by their government and what they perceive as what their faith calls them to do. Because when you see these marches and they're saying from the river to the sea, they're not talking about relocating the Israelis. They're talking about obliterating them. Israel is a very, very tiny country in a very, very Arab area. They're the only location there that allows this freedom of religion. You cannot wear a kippah and go walk through the streets of Palestine safely. You can absolutely wear whatever your faith dictates in the streets of Israel and be safe. America, just like Israel, are the two countries that foremost when people think of religious freedoms, that they know that not only can you come here and be protected despite your religious choices, but you will be defended because of those religious choices. And I don't put aside any oppression that these people in Gaza have been through. And it's horrible. And I think that there should be a way to find peace. But the fact of the matter is, if Israel laid down her weapons right now, she would be obliterated from the map, just as you're saying. All of these countries, Jordan, Iran, Lebanon, all of them would join together and obliterate this ancestral homeland. A year from now, Israel would look just like Gaza. And Gaza,
But wait a minute, let me respond. You're admitting though that the Israelis are oppressing the Palestinian people. Like I said, if we go back before Hamas acted on October 7th, if we go back to October 6th, you admit at that point the Palestinians were being oppressed by the Israelis, right?
There is some oppression by Israel. I don't fully support all of Israeli government, but I fully support Israel's right to exist. So just because Netanyahu's their prime minister right now doesn't mean I support Israeli government. I support Israelis' right to exist. And the Palestinians, unfortunately, their charter, the Hamas charter and the doctrine of their nation is to obliterate Israel.
But think about the conversation we just had. I asked you, were the Palestinians being oppressed, and you went right to, I support Israel's right to exist. You said some define some. What type of oppression, or what do you see being done wrong to the Palestinians?
Right now, they're yearly thousands of rockets. They never provoke. They never are the ones that initiate the wars. If you look at the history of all of the wars against Israel, all of them have been initiated by acts of other nations or other groups. Israel, go look at the facts right now. We can do it together on Google. But if you look at all of the wars that Israel has been in, they've never initiated a war. The Iron Dome that they have is a defense mechanism. It doesn't do anything other than shoot down rockets aimed at it. And these people are routinely fired rockets upon. I know that you love analogies, but let me do this because I know we're both, descendants of people that have been horribly oppressed in America and enslaved. So I'm very sympathetic to people that are oppressed. However, if our fight to end slavery would have come at brutalizing the people we found as our oppressors, civilians, the beheadings, the rapes, the brutal terrorization of civilians, we would have never gained our freedom. If the civil rights movement would have been people terrorizing, we would have never gained our rights. So it is important that we never try to gain freedom and peace through evil and violence.
I don't disagree with that. But when you say stand with Israel, and at the same time admitting that they are
with Israel's right to exist as a nation.
So
can there be a two-state solution? There probably absolutely could have been a two-state solution, and it has been proposed multiple times. However, in Gaza and in the West Bank, they do not want a two-state solution. They do not want Israel to have any control. That is the purpose.
But when you say you stand with Israel's right to exist, do you stand with the Palestinians' right to be free?
I stand with the Palestinians' right to choose whatever government and leadership they want.
I'm asking for freedom, though. I'm not talking about government. Do you stand with their right to be a free people? not have their land taken, not have settlers come in? Do you stand with their right to be free?
I do. Israel left Gaza. What was it, in 2007? They did not occupy Gaza. They removed all of the Israeli Jews out of Gaza and relocated them to Israel, so Gaza could be on their own. They even give work permits to 30,000 Gazans a day to come into Israel and work. Those Gazans that come in, they do not pay taxes on their income. They're able to move freely in and out of Israel. However, we've even found through those work permits on the Hamas terrorists, they had them with them. They were using it as a way to gather intel to do this attack. So unfortunately, as much as I've said my whole life, there has to be a two-state solution. I don't understand how they can. If they have neighbors that want to kill them, I don't understand how you live next to that neighbor.
But here's where
I hope they do.
here's where you and I disagree. Now, I played a clip from Obama not long ago where he was making it clear that Israeli settlers were harming Palestinians, and Palestinians could not even get justice. And I'm saying this because we have the belief that the Palestinians, like you mentioned, their charter, where they just want to harm the Jewish people, but the Jewish people mean no harm to the Palestinians. And the point I make, I don't think that's true.
I do think it's true. There are so many Israelis, and hopefully you talk to some because they're wonderful people. There are so many Israelis that work specifically to help the Gazans. Most of the settlements in these kibbutzes that were near the border, they all work with these people from Gaza. They treat them medically. There's clinics that were there that were specifically to treat these people. I think the Israeli people as a whole do want peace, and they wanted a two-state solution. But whenever they feel that betrayed, it's hard to, right now, instead of people calling for a ceasefire, because they're only telling Israeli people to have a ceasefire. Nobody's saying, Hamas, quit firing, quit attacking, and release the hostages right now. If that happened, there would be peace. They've already said, if you release our hostages and stop all of your actions, they would turn on the electricity, the water, and allow humanitarian aid.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that if the hostages are released and Hamas stops firing rockets, the Israelis will not continue their pursuit to catch and kill Hamas?
No, they're absolutely going to obliterate Hamas. That's not.
So there isn't a but you made it sound like the Palestinians could do something to stop the fight, stop the war.
Absolutely.
They can.
2 million, absolutely. There are 2 million Palestinians right now. You can't tell me that all of these Arab nations, along with the Palestinians, can't say, listen, you guys, you bit off more than you could chew. You attacked civilians. This operation was failed. The people that initiated it, they need to be turned over. If that happens, there would be peace. Israel doesn't want war. Israel doesn't want Gaza.
But how do you go and take someone's home and put Jewish people in the home, just settle on their land and say you want peace? How does that work? I just gonna come take your house and put a bunch of black people in it and tell you I want peace. How does that work?
This is how wars happen. Territories are fought and battled over all the time. If you want to go back through history, then right now we need to give Mexico Texas back in California. This is how wars happen. Is it fun? Is it fair? No. However, that's exactly what happens. And we have to move forward from the beginning now. This is now. We can't go back and say, oh, well, you took our hostages, you killed our civilians. People at a music concert, this wasn't military versus military. It was trained militia with weapons against civilians. That's where you draw the line. Israel has to exact their revenge, and their revenge should be just, and it should be triggered towards Hamas.
So let me ask you this. This is about the screenshots you see behind me. 4 different depictions of the Israeli country or the landmass from 1946 is in the one on my far right here. This one here, 1946. The green illustrates how much of that country was occupied by the Palestinian people. And then the second one here, going from, I guess that would be going from right to left. I'm looking at it backwards, but this one here where my hand is at, that's the UN plan in 1947, where they put the Israelis there after World War II. Now you notice the Palestinians control significantly less land than they did 1 year ago, and that's 1947. Now, continuing on, when my screen pops back on, I don't know why the hell it just did. Okay, continuing on, you have, this is from 1949 to 1967. There was a war in 1967 that the Israelis won. But you notice by 1967, yet again, the Palestinians were losing more land. And here it is in 2012. How do you explain it? What's going on there?
Like I said, that's how wars happen. And you can't, if you're going to have to change that, you're going to have to go and rewrite the maps of history throughout all time. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. But fortunately, Israel has 15 million residents left. That's all of the ancestral Jews in the world. That's it. That's their homeland. And if we don't allow them to have a place where they can live freely without persecution and without death just because of their faith or their ethnicity, I don't understand how we can call ourselves black people. That's exactly what we should be defending.
So let me present, because you make a good point about the Jewish only having 15 million people. I don't know how many people there are in the Palestinian community, but looking at this map, I want to ask you, when you look at how the 1946 map, I don't know how many Palestinians there were back then, but how do you squeeze them into this area? Because you mentioned there's only 15 million Jewish people. I don't know how many million Palestinians there were, but how do you squeeze them into an area this small without really degrading their quality of life?
That's a great question, but I know that with all of the money that's been put into Palestine through decades of funding through the UN, through the US, all of these Arab nations, they could look like Dubai right now if they wanted to. But all of their funding has been towards military action. They are on an aquifer. The pipelines that we have installed there in order to give these people fresh, clean drinking water, they dismantle them and make rockets. They get concrete shipments. That's why there's a military blockade right now, because whenever they get concrete shipments, they make tunnels to have ways.
But think about what you're saying. I showed you the difference in how much land he has, and you talk. I get that. When you're talking about a ton of money has been sent to help these people. To me, when you go from this to this, and you talk about how much money they're getting, it's like me taking your 5-bedroom home, giving you $1 billion and putting you in a garage. Yeah, there's money, but how can you survive in an area this small when you used to have enough people to occupy this? Even with money, endless amounts of money.
Do me a favor. Pull up a map of Middle East with Israel included in it, please, if you don't mind.
This is that map. The one on the. This is the.
Outside, zoom out just a little bit further. Like include Jordan, Lebanon. Just zoom out a little bit further.
Okay, you want to see a map, basically a map of the Middle East.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
And again, the plight of the Palestinians, there has to be a way to fix it. There has to be a way. Do I know the solution right now? No, because right now they have over 200 hostages. We can't have a solution. You don't tell someone after they break into your home and take your children, what do you want? Okay, now we can have peace. No, I want my child back. I want him back right now. And then you can tell me your plight later on. Your plight doesn't matter. I want my child. So Israel, I think the amount of restraint they're showing is remarkable, because if it were my child that was at a music festival and was slaughtered just because they were an easy target, they didn't target military bases. If that happened to my child, Israel is showing restraint like no other.
Okay.
I commend them all.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way that the color scheme pops out, you're not going to be able to see this very well. I'll have to find another map. But in regards to what you just stated, obviously we're going to defend our children. But when I look at the map that I showed you before of how much land has been shrunk by the Palestinian people, How do we expect them to be squares down that far and still maintain some kind of peaceful relationship with Israel? That's really squeezing them down when you look at that map.
Yeah. Point your little finger right there to that itty bitty spot where Israel is. That's all there is. That's all there is for Israelis to have a homeland. Everywhere else is a Muslim nation. Everywhere else they are Arab states that will.
And where's the Palestinian homeland?
They can live alongside Israelis as long as they don't want to obliterate them. This is something they've been testing. They've been giving them work visas. They've been attempting to allow them into their country and to live alongside them, and they do.
How do you look at that? How do you look at that other map I showed you and come out saying that they're allowing them to live alongside them? Their piece of the pie is continuing to shrink.
It has shrunk as a result of wars. Absolutely, it absolutely has. Along with every other nation throughout the world, Israel has held their own. Luckily, because if not, had they not, every single war has been initiated by someone else, and they wouldn't exist otherwise. And just like you said, if it's not for America defending Israel, Israel wouldn't exist. If Israel laid down their weapons, there would be no Israel. If Palestinians laid down their weapons, they could live peacefully. But unfortunately, thousands of rockets are lobbed into Israel every single year.
So your point is that if the Palestinians laid down their weapons, they would have never had their land settled on. They would not be getting oppressed. The Israelis would just be nice and friendly to them.
Absolutely. They've attempted it multiple times. There's been multiple peace treaties. There have been multiple chances at this alliance. They have denied it every single time because they do not believe that Israel has a right to exist. I love all of my Muslim friends. I love them, but they will tell you they do not believe Israel has a right to exist. They don't want a two-state solution.
I don't even think most of the free world, even America, I don't think agrees with what you just stated, that if the Palestinians did nothing, Israel would just treat them nice. I don't even think our current administration, I don't even know if Trump agrees with that. I'm certain George Bush and the rest of them didn't, huh?
So you're telling me right now that if Israel had no hope or aspiration to help Gaza get better, why would they fund them with electricity? Why would they provide them with water? Why would they provide them with humanitarian aid? Why would they provide visas for 30,000 people to come into Israel every day and work and not pay taxes on that income? If they didn't want peace, why would they do that?
Because the eyes of the world is looking on them, so they have to do something to make it not look like a humanitarian disaster.
So you're saying it's pity?
Yeah, I'm saying that the Israelis are doing the bare minimum to get people to look away from them. Otherwise, if they did what they wanted to do, it would be, well, some would argue even right now, Gaza is an open-air prison. But it would be even worse.
Okay, what would happen right now if the wall between Israel and Gaza and Israel and the West Bank were removed? What would be the outcome immediately?
They wouldn't get along, but I'm not going to pretend like the Jewish people would do nothing and it would just be all Muslim violence.
Okay, so do you think it would only be violence? So do you think who would be the vast proportion of violence?
I don't think I can say fairly, because I do believe the Jewish people are far more violent than we give them credit for.
But they're defensive. Do you understand? Have you ever spoken to an IDF soldier?
No, I've never spoken to anybody. Go ahead.
I think you should. So if you speak to an IDF soldier, you'll find out that they have rules of engagement that surpass what America's rules of engagement are. They aren't allowed to shoot someone to kill unless it is an absolute immediate threat. That the person is armed and has fired a shot. They're not allowed to fire a shot first. They're not allowed, like, their rules of engagement, they have do have the most ethical military.
Well, let me just say this in regards to what you're saying, and I can't dispute it. Even if what you're saying is true, I would counter by saying the American police also have rules of engagement. But when they break those rules, they don't come forward and tell you the truth. You think the Israeli Defense Force or whatever IDF, you believe that they're actually going to be truthful and convict their own if one of them goes over and I don't believe that.
Whenever there was an Israeli soldier that shot a reporter, a Palestinian reporter, Israel, they did face a lot of pressure, but they did a full investigation and they found that person and tried them and put them in jail. They absolutely do, but they do the investigation first and foremost. You'll notice that they don't immediately say this many people died. They do wait until they actually have a true accounting. They didn't say we did or didn't bomb that hospital. They said we're investigating it, and they did. And it did come out that they did not bomb that hospital and kill 500 people.
That is true. That is true. But just like it was misrepresented that the hospital was bombed by the Israelis, I think this whole baby decapitation story is also.
If you go to Hamas's ISIS.com, they've taken the GoPro uploads and put them onto the website because they said these atrocities have to be seen. Now, I can tell you there weren't 40, but there were some, and I can tell you one is enough. And I can tell you that it wasn't necessarily done with a knife. It was done with a shovel. These were barbaric acts that were committed against innocent civilians. These were not oppressors. These were not military people. These were women that had their pelvises broken from repeated rapes by multiple militants. These were not freedom fighters. These were terrorists that went into clinics and killed people. These were not freedom fighters. These were people that paraglided into a music festival and killed as many people as possible, and that was their goal.
Let me ask you this, and I'm not disputing anything you say, but let me ask you this: considering how many gross atrocities that Hamas has perpetrated on the Israelis on October 7th, why do you think so many people still have a negative view of Israel? Like after we got attacked on January, or better yet, September 11th, most of the world didn't jump up and criticize how we were treating the Middle East. There's a lot of folks that are criticizing how.
Great question. That's an amazing question because, like you said, the world's watching. Everyone's waiting for there to be a reason for Israel not to exist. Why? I don't know. Is it biblical? Is it racist? I don't know. I don't care. I know that it needs to be recognized, the evils, just because if we can deny, and these are the same people that will deny the Holocaust actually happened. It took 18 months for Hitler to convince the people to do this propaganda campaign to convince people that the Jewish people were vile, they were evil, that they were dirty. And then people went along with it. This didn't take that long. And all it takes is for one side to be so deep in their echo chamber and not discuss this with anyone else. I've made it a point to speak to people from both sides because I do want to understand it.
But you've spoken to people from both sides, but in my opinion, you're deep in the support of Israel echo chamber. You don't seem to be giving the Palestinians a lot of sympathy for what they're complaining they went through.
Just as I said that if my ancestors would have tried to gain their freedom through these atrocities, we would have never had our freedom. There would be no slavery in America because they would have killed us all. Yeah. That's a fact.
That I agree with.
The people in Gaza, the people in the Middle East as a whole need to take a big lesson from great leaders like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King.
But think about what you're saying. You're saying take a lesson from Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King. One of them was wrongfully incarcerated for 27 years. The other one was shot in the face. You do understand it's hard for them to take lessons from people who paid such a huge price by trying to protest the right way.
Absolutely. And would they go back and take it back? Absolutely not, because they did it the right way. And sometimes sacrifices come along with that, and you take those and you persevere through them. But the way to gain freedom isn't through atrocities, it isn't through violence, and it certainly isn't using your own people to martyr them. These people in Gaza, they do deserve a better life, and they deserve one free of Hamas. They should, as a whole, say, we want freedom. We will not have this government, and they should push Hamas out of their country, hand them over to Israel, and Israel exact whatever justice needs to be done. If they don't want this kind of leadership, they need to join up together, because there's 2 million of them in a very small area.
Fair enough.
Okay? Unfortunate.
I'm gonna have to move it on, but I want to ask you this. I want to ask you this last question before I move it on. If the Palestinians did what you said, got rid of Hamas, and became peaceful with the Jewish people, do you believe Israel should give them more land than what you see up here on this far left side? Do you think they should give them more space to live? Because right now they live in, the Gaza Strip is one of the most densely populated areas in the world. Should they get more space to stretch out?
I think they should allow them to move more freely through Israel proper. However, I don't think Israel should ever give up more land, because that is the only ancestral land of them people.
Wow. So you want them living like you want them living in coach on a cheap airline for the rest of their existence. They're living in coach.
Why won't Egypt take them? Do you know why? Do you know why Egypt won't take them?
Because
Jordan won't take them.
Egypt and Jordan will not take them, because that could make them a target of Israeli bombing.
No, that's not at all it.
That's what they're saying. That is what they're saying in Egypt. They don't want to take them, because if they take them, all of a sudden Israel may claim you got a couple members of Hamas in your country, and they start bombing them. That's what they're saying.
If they eliminated Hamas, there would be no reason for them to bomb anyone. If Israel weren't under threat, they wouldn't bomb anyone. They only act in defense. That's why their military is called Israeli Defense, because they only act in defense.
Right.
Go back and look through history. It is a historical fact. If you look at every war that's ever been waged, it was never initiated by Israel. It's historically a fact.
All right. Fair enough. I got to move it on. Good talk.
Yeah.
Good talk. Appreciate it.
Let's talk later.
Absolute. Now, looking in the comments, and I'll just say this real quick. This map is horrible. And I understand some of this is the product of war or whatever, but in modern times, isn't that now considered a war crime? When you go to war, you're not supposed to steal people's homeland. I think that's something that, did it come out of the Geneva Convention or something? Because she was bringing up, rightfully so, that taking land used to be the way things always happen. That's how our map was shaped. But I believe in modern times, they basically, whether it's the Geneva Convention or however the agreements work, agreed to stop doing that. You can't just, basically eradicate people and take their homeland. Otherwise, big nations would go to war with smaller nations all the time with that in mind. Isn't that what Russia's trying to do with the Ukraine right now? You can't just take people's homeland and say, well, I beat your ass, I get your house now. Because the Israelis would beat the Palestinians every day of the week, including Sunday. So that's a problem. But looking at the map, and I wanted her to see it and for you folks to see it, because I do believe it shows the strife of the Palestinian people. You see on my far right here, the green on that. This is 4 different maps. The first one, looking at the years, the first one is 1946, literally the year after Germany surrendered. So the Jews are being displaced after World War II, 1946. And you see the green represents how much of the land the Palestinians control. In this map, they even call that area Palestine. And the other 3 maps are all labeled as Israel. Go figure. But the first map that's all green, they call it Palestine. Now, the second map is the UN plan. That's literally 1 year between these maps here. First and second map, that is 1 year's time. That much land was lost from the Palestinian people. That's 1 year. The UN gave the Jewish people that much land. And as you see, it just continued getting worse. The question I asked her is, how do you get people that lived here to all fit here without really condensing and packing them in. I mean, that's like literally taking the entire Midwest and making them live in Rhode Island. How do you do that without really affect? Now, she rightfully pointed out a lot of humanitarian aid and money and resources have been sent to the people. Fair enough, but they still live in a tiny home. How do you get people living like that to work it out? There's nowhere near enough resources, agriculture to farm, things like, there's no way you can do it. There's no way you can do it. You would have to send them resources to help them survive. It's not like they can do a lot of farming in that little tiny area. You've taken everything from them. So the idea that they should lay down their arms and live peacefully and things like that, I'm not suggesting Hamas should ever do what they did. As she rightfully pointed out, you're never going to get justice, equality, freedom by just literally harming a bunch of innocent people. I'm not here to defend Hamas. But this happened before October 7th. This is atrocious. This is atrocious. This takes away any notion that Israel was just an innocent angel that the Palestinians with Hamas representing them just decided to wake up and start harming people. This is atrocious. This should not happen. And America has stood by Israel throughout all of this. Throughout all of this, we were standing with Israel while these people were continuing to be compressed. You heard the speech I played by Obama, constantly pointing this stuff out. Earlier, I played a speech by Jimmy Carter that's even further back than Obama, talking about this same stuff. And remember, the map on the far left here, this map here is in 2012, long after Jimmy Carter was complaining about it. So it hasn't stopped. Now, the Israelis, and I'll go back to the box in a second here. And I appreciate you folks that are tapping the screen. Get your boy up to 30,000. TikTok does seem to have some of this censored, so it's kept the numbers low, but appreciate you folks tuning in. One thing I wanted to point out before I go back to the box, looking at the smaller, the map on the far, on my far right here, or whatever the case may be, that little tiny piece there with my tip of my fingers, that is the Gaza Strip. The rest of that is the West Bank over there on those other little strips, Gaza Strip and West Bank. Israel has already stated that it is likely they are going to resume control of the Gaza Strip. So now their portion, and I don't know what happened to it, but their portion on the map is about to get even smaller. They're about to take even more of their land. So I don't get how anybody can support what is going on in regards to how they're being shrunk. They're going to lose this little tiny, tiny strip of land. And now it's just going to be, I can't even get the thing over here, but if you look at what's left, I suppose at that point, they'll just be landlocked. They'll just be landlocked. So I don't see how the world could stand by and watch that. Going back to the box. Wow, I just don't see it. Appreciate you folks that are holding on. General Prince, good evening. Welcome to the program. Talking about standing by Israel, or perhaps some folks even are favoring the Palestinians. What say you on this, Prince? Good evening. General Prince, are you there? I'm doing good. I was rambling on for a minute there, but do you see the Israelis as an innocent party here in just being victimized by Hamas?
I mean, if they were born yesterday, yeah. I mean, they're innocent. Let's put it that way.
But you were not born yesterday, so talk to me.
Yeah, I wasn't born yesterday. I was born in Palestine. But not yesterday.
You were actually born in Palestine?
Yes.
How long has it been since you I mean, you're obviously American citizen and residency?
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, I was born there and I was only a month old when I left. Of course, I visited there since then.
All right.
The thing is, under warlike circumstances. So I have a claim to land, and of course I have relatives there still, and extended family and family. So,
Do you know if everybody is okay?
oh, they're in Jerusalem, so they're not in Gaza. So
Okay. All right.
the ones that I know of, none of them are in Gaza. So,
How did you feel about President Trump moving the embassy to Jerusalem, the Israeli embassy?
I think it's a useless move. I don't know why he did it, and I'm not sure what the point was, to be honest.
No, the point was to say he stands by the Israeli claims to Jerusalem.
Okay, fine. and again, he didn't do as much, in my opinion. I don't think he did as much harm or damage as Biden did. He didn't cause any wars or give Israel even more money.
Do you
That's really what I'm.
do you believe this would be taking place, this event, if Trump was in office right now?
It's a good question. It's hard to say. I think Trump would have been a little more balanced, a little more realistic in terms of how to balance out things. Biden is so pro-Israel; it's just
But,
way off the charts.
but wait a minute, but we both admitted Trump moved the whole embassy to Jerusalem. How are you suggesting he would be balanced?
Of course, he's pro-Israel too.
Yeah.
A president that's not pro-Israel.
Okay.
But if he was, let's say, for the sake of argument, he was anti-Israel, would he be president then? That's just ridiculous to.
Well, you don't have to be. You don't have to be anti-Israel. How about criticizing Israel where you think they're doing wrong, like President Carter and Bill and Hillary Clinton did?
Okay, and the only one that did actually criticize Israel while they were in office is, guess what? Which one?
All three of
Guess
them.
which one?
Obama.
No, only Obama did, and only to a certain extent, and not even Carter. Carter criticized them heavily after he left office.
True. That is true.
I mean, the thing is, the pro-Israel lobby is just not only huge, but it's very influential. And they've got a lot of money.
So are we selling ourselves out for money?
Say again?
So are we selling ourselves out, America and the West, to Israel simply because we can make money off of it?
I wish we did make money, my friend. I don't think we make any money off
Oh, we're making money off. Yeah, we're making money off it because Israel gives us a window into the Middle East and into their resources over there. We are making money off of it.
Name one resource that they're giving us.
They're giving us access to the Middle East. That's the resource.
Which asset?
Oil.
Which asset?
Oil.
Oil?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? There's no oil in Palestine or Israel.
I said they're giving us access to the Middle East. We have access to the Middle East through Israel so that we can let everybody know we got bases. We can get to you within a moment's notice. We are able to control the way things operate in the Middle Eastern theater because we got an ally in the region.
I'm having a hard time. I'm open-minded. I don't think that's fair to assume that they're an ally, even to begin with. I mean, is Qatar an ally or is Israel an ally? Where's our base?
You don't see Israel as an ally of the United States?
No. And yet we give them money.
What?
Go figure, right?
Why don't you see Israel as an ally?
Again, you haven't given me anything substantial that they've given us. What have they given us? Access to the Middle East. What does that even mean?
I asked you originally about money. The Israelis are constantly purchasing weapons from us. I mean, we have a business partnership.
Are you kidding me? It's almost as if I wish they were purchasing weapons. I don't think they purchased any weapons. They got them all for free.
But we're giving them free weapons and they're not an ally.
Okay, so we're giving them free weapons. Does that mean that they're an ally just because we're giving them free weapons?
Yeah. If you're handing me your pistol, why are you giving me free guns if we're not friends? Yeah.
I mean, mean, I can give you an instance or two, and I don't want to, but I can give you where they've actually attacked us with the weapons that women. I mean, anyway, the point is they've attacked us. But the point is, here's my point. Here's the reason why I came up. We're giving them money. Why are we giving them money?
Because we want them to give us a window, give us access into the Middle East. If Israel was in Africa, we wouldn't give a damn about Israel.
Okay. And I mean the point here. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. Israel, whenever we want them to do something, they say basically "F you." They don't listen to us. Okay.
Okay. In your opinion.
And don't fool yourself to think that we haven't tried to tell them to do certain things that we want them to do. We have tried, and they have told us no. Like, for example, we've tried to have them give Ukraine the Iron Dome, and well, guess what? What did they say?
They didn't comply with that.
Okay, and does the Iron Dome have anything to do with, in other words, our help in creating the Iron Dome? I mean, we have had some say, like, what am I trying to say? The Iron Dome wasn't built by them alone. We've helped them do it.
Right.
Yet they're not gonna help us give it to Ukraine.
So, okay, I get your point. You don't see Israel as an ally. You just believe the United States for no reason at all is just giving them free weapons.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Let's say they weren't giving them free weapons, and they had to buy it. That's money out of their budget. Now what they're using that money for instead is the settlements in the West Bank.
So at the end of the day, why do we rush and send carriers to the Mediterranean? I mean, they only got like 20 Americans. I mean, as far as America is concerned, why are we jumping and sending carriers, putting 2,000 military personnel on standby? We're not an ally, as you put it. Why are we so eager to jump into this conflict?
Well, they're not going to jump in unless another.
But why are we there? Why are we there?
That's just symbolic. They're not going to do anything.
Why are we being symbolic to a country that's not even an ally?
Just to show the Israeli lobby that, hey, we're doing something for you. We're doing something for Israel.
Why would you do that? Why would you be eager to show their lobby all of this when they're not even your ally? Why are you eager to impress somebody that you don't even consider them to be a friend?
Now you're talking from the point of view of a politician here in America, right? Why are they supporting Israel? Or why did they?
I'm merely listening to what you're saying and I'm not comprehending it, so I'm trying to get clarity from you. If they're not our ally, and you're saying we're jumping up to impress, why would you be eager to impress people that you're not even friends with?
I mean, friends with is a very nebulous term, but here's my point, my earlier point. Have they helped us in any war over there?
Has the Israelis helped us?
Yes.
Yeah, they give us intel.
What kind of intel?
We're not going to know that, but I guarantee you they're giving us intel on what's going on in the Middle East.
I don't believe that. Unless you can give me some proof that they're helping us in some way, shape, or form, I don't believe it.
Okay. So do you even stand with Israel? Because a lot of folks are saying they stand. You're saying you were born in Palestine. You were born over there, correct?
Yeah.
Do you believe what's happening to them by Israel is wrong?
Of course.
Okay. So at the end of the day, when America says they stand, when America says they stand with Israel, is America wrong to say that when you're saying that what's happening to the Palestinians is wrong?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's wrong.
All
It's
right.
wrong to stand with Israel when Israel kills so many Palestinians, innocent Palestinians. Would you stand with America standing with Israel if it means killing so many Palestinian innocents? Would you?
No, I don't think. Yeah, I agree. Now we're coming full circle. I do agree that America should be cautious of who they're just standing with. I mean, you don't just defend bad company. Now you're saying America's not an ally to Israel. I vehemently disagree with that. But even if America's not an ally, as you say, they're painting a picture like they are because they're on a world stage immediately yelling, "I'm with Israel. I'm with Israel." If they are doing what you're saying, and I do agree that that's what's happening, is that the Palestinians have been oppressed by the Israelis, we shouldn't be quickly yelling out, we stand with somebody. We should be analyzing the situation because there are, as Trump would say, bad people on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I don't deny that there's bad people on both sides, but the oppression, the victims. I don't like to play the victim game. The thing is, who are the real victims in the 75 years? In the last 75 years, were the Israelis?
I think it's.
Are the Israelis the victims?
I know. I believe.
The point.
Go ahead.
The point is, regardless of who the actual victims are, who's playing the victims?
Well, in America, only the Israelis are being portrayed as victims. I assume if you're in the Middle East, the Israelis are portrayed as the aggressors and the Palestinians are victims. But if you're in the West, it sounds like the Israelis were just, walking down the street whistling, and the Palestinians just jumped out and started beating the hell out of them.
Right, in a vacuum, as if nothing else happened before that.
Right.
And you know that. Again, we're not born yesterday, and you should see through that propaganda, right?
Absolutely do.
What innocent harm done either side, and Hamas was wrong with doing that. Right? To be honest, I don't know exactly what happened with what Hamas did. At first, I heard that they were beheading babies. I found out that was wrong. Now, why did they use that as a talking point? Why did they use that? Why do you think they used that?
Well, they used it for the same reason Hamas suggested that Israel bomb the hospital, to gain sympathy.
Okay, let's move to the hospital then. Who do you think bombed the hospital?
I believe it was an errant rocket that was designed to strike Israel, ran out of fuel, like they said, and came down in the wrong location. Friendly fire.
Did you know how much firepower a rocket has compared to a missile that Israel would launch?
I can't speak on the logistics. I'm going by what both Western and Middle Eastern media is saying. Even Al Jazeera is admitting the rocket came from their own people.
Regardless of what they say, what did you see in the video, the blast?
I heard a whooshing sound that sounded like a rocket, and I saw the place blast. There is no crater, but I saw the place go boom.
How much of a boom was it?
You're getting into semantics. I can't speak on that through a TV screen.
What do you mean? You saw the video?
Yeah, I'm not. Look, it's through TV. Give me the point you're trying to make. Let me hear what you.
The point is, a rocket can't do that. A homemade rocket, $200 rocket, can't make a blast as big as the one that you saw in the video.
So you do believe it was Israel? You believe it was Israel?
Yeah, I'm just using logic here. I'm not even using propaganda. Okay. You tell me a blast like that cannot happen from a rocket. That's all I'm saying.
So you believe that the United States is not an ally of Israel, but just decided to lie and defend Israel when they bombed the hospital?
Of course they're going to side with Israel. But the way you put it, I mean, I don't think Israel is an ally of the United States.
Okay.
The United States is an ally of Israel. Yes, of course, they receive money from them, right? But if we're going to ask Israel for anything, you better pack a big fat lunch because you're not going to get what you're asking for.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
All right. So how do you...
Is,
Now, in the comments, I got somebody stating that land is Israel's land. How do you respond to that? Do you believe they've taken any land from the Palestinians, or do you believe that is their rightfully owned land?
Okay, let me be fair. Some of it was purchased by the Jews, and it's their land. That land was purchased. It's theirs. But how much of that was purchased is the question.
Yeah.
Very small number. The other part was taken by force or by war.
Right.
And then it becomes a question of, whose land is it? at the end of the day, after a war that was won by force. And if you want to take a moral stance, then it is the Palestinians' land. If it was taken by force.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we agree on some and we vastly disagree on some more. But I got to move it on, General Prince. Appreciate you coming in.
I want to ask you.
Sure.
One thing I want to ask you, though. If Israel is on par with the United States in terms of the standard of living, they make about the same amount as we make in terms of the average income per year. Why would we give them money?
As I just told you, we want access into the Middle East. They are our window into the Middle East.
You mean assets in terms of getting oil? We already got oil.
I mean, whatever we want to do in the Middle East, they are our window into the Middle East. I really believe
There's no
that.
proof of that. There's no proof of that. That's
Okay.
all I'm saying.
All right.
And I'd like to see the proof of what assets they provided us. But thank you for letting me come on. Have a good day.
Anytime. Appreciate it. All right. Looking into the box. Did Handsome stutter? Appreciate that. Well, folks, listen. At the end of the day, I wanted you to hear another clip because here's one. This is actually Netanyahu, current prime minister, president, leader of Israel. By the way, he was up on charges. I don't think any of that's going to stick at this point because once you're in a war, nobody really gives a damn about the local politics. But this guy was at risk of being ousted. Talking about Benjamin Netanyahu. But I want you to hear this because this is in regards to, once again, Clinton. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton also suggesting what the Israelis were doing was wrong. And this is Netanyahu's response to it. Minute and 58 seconds.
I don't know if you heard my interview earlier in the week with former President Bill Clinton, but and he's a strong supporter of Israel, as you well know. He was pretty critical of you. He was suggesting that you've changed the goalposts, if you will, and he would like you to make that gesture, if you will. Did you see what he said?
Well, I heard what he said, and I respectfully disagree with Bill Clinton. I mean, he's an important leader. He's the American president. But I think on this one, the facts speak differently. And the facts are that, if anything, I moved Israel's position to something that now is consensual, that we can have a demilitarized Palestinian state that recognizes the Jewish state. I made that into the consensus issue in Israel. And I don't think any Likud leader did that before. I think that the Palestinians, to quote Abba Ibn, are again not wasting an opportunity to waste an opportunity. They should just put aside all these bickering, all these minutiae, and just sit down as we're doing.
Put aside all this bickering, all this minutia when they're being compressed into. Remember the map I just showed you of how small the area they have remaining to live on? They should just put aside all of that and come to the table
right now and negotiate peace. I'm ready to do it. Is President Abbas ready to do it?
All right, so you're not ready to freeze settlements again?
Well, I think that I've already done that, and I think I've responded to it, but I am willing to talk about it. And I'm hoping, are they ready to rescind these demands? Oh, what is this thing with preconditions? For 18 years we've been negotiating peace. I don't remember this ever coming up as a precondition. I think when you want to avoid negotiations, you get a free ride. You know what the free ride, Wolf, is? That you're asking me these questions. You're not asking him. The fact that there's this easy way of accusing Israel that's gone for peace, has done things for peace, has actually taken steps for peace, and the fact that the Palestinians who refuse to negotiate peace for 2.5 years are getting a free ride, that's how we avoid peace.
How do
I don't know if you heard.
How do you negotiate peace when they're, because he said for 12, 18 years or whatever, they're constantly taking more and more land from them. I mean, it sounds like the common racial argument where you hear people, you need to get over what happened in the past. People tell you that. Like, how do you ignore all of that? And in their case, it's not very far in the past. It's actually in all of our lifetime. How do you come to the table and have a peaceful discussion when you got my grandma's house you guys are living in, or you took my dad's house a couple years ago and now you're living in it. Like, how do you come to the table and discuss peace? What I don't get it. Even when the guy just questioned him there and asked, "Are you willing to undo some of the settlements?" He didn't say, "Yeah, well, I'll talk about it." What kind of, when people say, "I'll talk about it," that means no. That means you ain't gonna do it. So I don't get it, but one of the whole purposes of this was to just simply say, at the end of the day, I don't see how you're going to get peace from these folks when, for the most part, Israel is not even willing to admit they're doing anything wrong. I think the whole argument is that the Israelis were just trying to live their life, and Hamas just decided one day they were going to wipe them off the map. The Israelis are doing nothing wrong in their eyes. So how do you broker peace with that? I just don't see how you could ever do it. But real quick, you guys heard the Obama claim. I won't even go back to Carter, but President Carter said the exact same thing Obama. And by the way, the reason why I played these videos, because they are all very old. The one you just seen with Benjamin Netanyahu, that video is 12 years old. The one you seen with Obama saying very similar stuff, 10 years old. The one with President Carter from 2009, 14 years old. And they're all relevant to this day. They, by the way, taking away what Hamas did on October 7th, the atrocities of Hamas, this stuff was relevant on October 6th as well. So we can talk about what Hamas did. They were wrong every day of the week, but this stuff is relevant, what they're complaining about before Hamas went in there. So the notion that Israel is just a good guy and Hamas decided to strike, I don't know who's buying it. Anyhow, I do have to do what I got to do. Got to get up early. I do appreciate you folks tuning in. The 33,000 likes. Unfortunately, they certainly, censored the live stream tonight because I generally have, as I pointed out, several hundred people in here, and they did what they had to do to censor the live, kept it on, kept the numbers low. But before we move on, I just want you to hear this one from Obama again, because to me, this was probably the best speech dealing with this that most Americans never heard.
Palestinian people's right to self-determination, their right to justice, must also be recognized. And put yourself in their shoes. Look at the world through their eyes. It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own. Living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day. It's not just when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished. It's not right to prevent Palestinians from farming their lands or restricting a student's ability to move around the West Bank or displace Palestinian families from their homes. Neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer.
This is white culture. Wow.
Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land. I'm going off script here for a second, but...
Real quick, just to preface this for those who didn't see it earlier, he is in Israel This speech he's giving is in Israel, so he is there telling this to them in their face. You can barely see it here, but when they zoom out, you'll notice the two Star of David Israel flags on both sides. So he is actually in Israel telling this. This is not a United States speech. He is over there telling this to them to their face.
Before I came here, I met with a group of young Palestinians from the age of 15 to 22. And talking to them, they weren't that different from my daughters. They weren't that different from your daughters or sons. I honestly believe that if any Israeli parent sat down with those kids, they'd say, I want these kids to succeed. I want them to prosper. I want them to have opportunities just like my kids do. I believe that's what Israeli parents would want for these kids if they had a chance to listen to them and talk to them. I believe that.
Now, I wanted to pause that. If you notice, you see right there both the American and Israeli flags are in the background. And yeah, I saw somebody in the comments said he's doing that off script. Yeah, that's pretty fucking spot on to be doing off script. So there was never a claim that he couldn't talk without a teleprompter. But yeah, you see the Israeli flags right there. So he is in Israel telling them this to their face.
Now, only you can determine what kind of democracy you will have. But remember that as you make these decisions, you will define not simply the future of your relationship with the Palestinians, you will define the future of Israel as well. As Ariel Sharon said, I'm quoting him, "It is impossible to have a Jewish democratic state at the same time to control all of Eretz Israel. If we insist on fulfilling the dream in its entirety, we are liable to lose it all."
How many of you folks missed that type of a speech? Didn't name call. I mean, went off script, but wow. I just wanted to play that for you. And real quick, the other one, this one is a little bit, we may view it as a little bit less relative just simply because of who it's coming from, former President Jimmy Carter. And this is in 2009, so it's well after he left office. But nevertheless, once again, it's relevant 14 years ago. In this case, President Carter, or former President Carter, is actually on the Palestinian side of things, talking to Palestinians that have had their home taken away. And the speech he gives, once again, similar to Obama, clear as day, very relevant.
Which is your house?
It's here.
Which is your house?
Now, real quick, he's asking the guy, which is your house? Because this person's house has been taken by the Jewish people. So they took his house and now they're living in his house. And he's asking the guy to point out the house you used to live in.
My house was there.
No. I say still is your house.
Well, it's this
We are
with the green sauce.
three kids.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
It's a political issue. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's an attempt by Israel to take over East Jerusalem, which is part of Palestine. And they've been living here 55 years. 3 families living here legally 55 years. There's 17 members in the family. They've all been forced out of their homes, and they've been taken over by Israeli settlers. And of course, the only appeal they have legally is to the Israeli court system. And I'm not condemning anybody, but it's obviously a matter of injustice and human rights.
So, Carter is saying something similar to Obama, not as well, or he's not orating it as well, but I mean, obviously, Jimmy Carter's approaching damn near 100 years old, but same complaint. So what happened on October 7th, although atrocious, definitely appears to be an act of terrorism. It didn't happen in a vacuum. It didn't happen in a vacuum. I think the lesson in all of this is never ignore the complaints coming from an oppressed person or an oppressed people in this case, because this is what could happen. I do believe that if America and the free world had listened a bit more to what the Palestinians were claiming they were going through, you might not have Hamas doing what they did. 1,400 Jewish people lost their lives. I don't think that probably would not have happened. But we ignored also the atrocities of the Jewish people for so long. This is what you have. Appreciate you folks tuning in. Catch you tomorrow as normal. Thank you. TikTok. Appreciate you folks.